Hi, I'm Beau Christensen, the host of Mind Your Mortgage and media marketing specialist at Security National Mortgage Company. Today we have Dave Pettitt with me. He is a executive regional manager at Security National Mortgage Company. Dave, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Yeah, Dave Pettitt, again, the Executive Regional Manager here at Security National Mortgage of the Salt Lake region. I've been with Security National for going on 12 years now. I started as a branch manager and a loan producer back in, I guess that would be, 2013, and was promoted a few years ago to manage one of the areas of the Salt Lake region, and then in late 2023, early 2024, I was promoted to be the executive regional manager of the Salt Lake region here. So I've had an amazing run at Security National. Love it. Plan on retiring here. I've been in the mortgage industry for 22 years, and this is home.
Very tenured career, very important person, obviously.
Uh,
Dave, what are some of your areas of expertise?
yeah, so that's one of the things I'll say is I still today do some loan production. And for me, and I'm not saying that everybody has to be like this, but for me, it's important to stay grounded in what we're all about. And really what we're all about at Security National Mortgage Company is turning houses into homes. That's our slogan, right? It's about the people that we serve, right? And so I still produce because it keeps me closest to our clients. And frankly, it's one of the fun parts, problem solving for our people. So areas of expertise, I mean, I've done it all in my 22-year career on the lending front. I've spent a big part of my career working with real estate investors and folks, from seasoned real estate investors that have multiple properties to first time investors working with self-employed real estate investors, kind of trying to help them get on their real estate investment path. And so I would say that that's probably an area that I've worked in a lot. We also do a ton of first time home buyer stuff. So we really cover every end of the spectrum, from condos to multi-unit properties, just just a little bit of everything. And I think really that's probably one of the most important things, especially for our day, like today in 2025, where there's not just this giant plethora of home loan applications. We're all scrapping for every single deal. So I think the willingness to being able to roll up your sleeves, being willing to roll up your sleeves and just dig in and try to problem solve your way through any deal.
Yeah, I think that's really cool that you do keep yourself still involved in the field with like closing loans and all of that. That way you're more aware of what's going on because you're going to be facing the same issues that your LOs might be facing as well.
For
So,
sure, for sure. And I will say that there's, you know, people that are watching this may or may not know there's 6 regions here at Security National Mortgage. Some of my counterparts do the same thing. They produce loans. Some don't. There's no one size fits all when it comes to this.
yeah.
I'm saying for me, it helps me kind of stay grounded with that and stay connected. But also, some people might say, well, that's a detriment. You manage 100+ people. How do you have time to do this? Well, I have a great team behind me, first and foremost. A big shout out to my team, from Bryant Marsing, my assistant, Garrity Hathaway. She's my right hand person that handles a lot of my loan production. I've got phenomenal processors in Callie Young and Carla Allen, and I'm going to leave out people, so don't be offended, but I have just a phenomenal team behind me. So they do, I do a lot of the initial consultation with the client. It takes up a very small percentage of my day, and then they are very hands-on the rest of the way. So the majority of my day for sure is spent in the management of our organization, but that little piece helps me really stay connected to what our clients need and
Yeah,
what our loan officers need, frankly, because I'm in the
exactly.
trenches with them.
Exactly. That's amazing. In today's episode, we're going to learn about Dave's journey, insights on customer service, and how he helps you achieve home ownership. But before that, let's get to know Dave a little bit better. Dave, can you share a bit about your background and how you got into the mortgage industry?
Yeah, no, I'd love to. My background is I grew up blue collar family in a little town in Louisiana, a little town called Walker, Louisiana, just outside of Baton Rouge. And I don't know, I just had kind of big city dreams from a pretty young age. I wanted to find a career in life that would help me kind of, provide well for my family, have some of the luxuries that I wasn't afforded to have as a, not that we went without, but again, my mom was a school teacher. My dad was a mechanic by trade and later like a service manager, but we weren't wealthy by any stretch of the imagination. And so I kind of had aspirations to just to earn a good living, right? And um, also was the stereotypical kid that couldn't get out of the small town fast enough. I wanted to see the whole world. So I graduated. I moved out the very next day. I did a semester at LSU. Um, kind of figured out I wasn't ready for big boy life just yet. Moved home and kind of got some things in order. I decided to serve like a service mission for my church. I went out for 2 years into Portugal and Cape Verde, West Africa. I spent 2 years out there, and that really opened my eyes to the fact that there was life outside of this tiny little town in Louisiana.
Yeah.
Right? Like I wanted to see everything. I met some folks out there that became really good, like lifelong friends. Um, one of which was from Hawaii, and I learned that there was a college out there on the North Shore of Hawaii that I could, go to, and a couple of my friends were going to be out there, and I was like, yeah, sign me up for that. So I spent almost the next 3 years in Hawaii, going to school, and I did go to school out there, right? There's plenty of times where I didn't, but I did good enough out there, a little bit further along in life, a little bit more responsible. Um, did 3 years out there, and then a lot of my friends that I had made along the way out there said, "Hey, okay, we're done. We're moving on to the next phase." A lot of them were moving to Utah to finish school or moving back home, and I thought, okay, well, that'll be my next little stop on the map, right? And so I came here, lived here, enrolled in school at BYU. Didn't love that. I spent a semester there before I transferred up to the University of Utah, and and I did enjoy that quite a lot. But it was about that time where some of my friends were, I was on kind of like the doctor track, like planning on going to school for
Yeah.
7 or 8 years, not necessarily going to be a doctor, but I was going to go to school for a long time. Um, and a lot of my friends were kind of, they're graduating, figuring out their next steps. One of my very best friends, he got in real estate, and I just saw, kind of opened my eyes, like that he was making good money, right? Driving nice cars, the whole thing. I mean,
Yeah.
the whole bit. And he says, you should get into real estate. And I said, nope, I'm a terrible salesperson. I don't want anything to do with that. I tried selling pest control in Southern California for a summer, right? A summer job. And
Jeez.
I worked hard for like a month and made some decent money. And then I spent the rest of the summer blowing every dollar that I had made in Southern California. So I'm like, I don't know that the sales thing's cut out for me. And he said, well, you're kind of a nerd. And I said, that's fair. He said, do you like math? Yeah. You ever consider a career in finance? And I was like, oh, not necessarily, but I'd had a couple other friends that had gotten to be mortgage brokers. And I thought, well, that's interesting. They're doing all the same things. They're buying houses. They're driving nice cars, whatever. Right. So again, young and dumb, but with a little bit of aspiration and motivation. And I just, my eyes were open to, okay, this could be a career path for me. So I said, yeah, I'll do that. How do I do it? He said, well, I've got a guy that I'm kind of using right now that's doing some loans for me, just new in the real estate industry. Why don't you go team up with him, partner with him, and he'll teach you how to do loans. And I thought, okay, I'll give that a whirl. This is in like 2003-ish. So I go work for this gentleman, and I didn't kind of realize that what was happening, but I think he saw the writing on the wall as he's like, I'm teaching this guy basically how to replace me. And again, young and dumb, I didn't have that perspective, but that's essentially what happened. Is as soon as I got up to speed, all of my friends that were kind of using him to do their loans, they were then comfortable with me doing their lending, right?
Yeah.
So that was my journey into, and I'm not necessarily, I didn't realize that, not necessarily like the proudest moment. And I had great conversations with him after, like I never meant to necessarily be your replacement, but just being honest and raw. Like we had a pretty good relationship after that. We kind of drew a line in the sand and say, hey, okay, you're you're going to go work with these guys, but don't touch these guys. And that was perfect for me. I started, making decent money at a pretty young age, as a loan officer, working in the mortgage broker space. And these friends that I got into the industry with, that was the best part for me, right? Is that these were my buddies. They were making money. They were now including me. Now we're working together, providing value to each other. And then I felt like I was in on the game, right? Like I was a part of it. And after about 2 or 3 years, I kind of just had that realization that, hey, I think this could be a viable long-term career. And to this day, a lot of my best friends are still in real estate or mortgage and whatnot. And so that was my path, is how I got started in the industry.
Man, that is an amazing background story, and I feel like we could just go back and forth and talk about that all day because
Sure.
there's a lot of questions that we could definitely ask you about. But we're gonna move on. So what are some of your passions outside of work?
Yeah, and I think that this, hopefully nobody just stops right after that and thinks, well, Dave's kind of an idiot because all he wanted to do was make money, and then this poor guy that helped him figure out the industry, right? And that guy went on to do fantastic as well. And I actually just came from a mastermind group today, where we talked about, look, the more we can help each other, the better. The pie is gigantic in this, and you don't necessarily have that perspective young, but the pie is big.
Yeah.
There's plenty of opportunity to help each other and help each other grow, right? And so eventually I came to understand that and lose that sense of guilt about, taking some of that business. But uh, what kind of keeps me going today? What are my passions and whatnot? Um, Fast forward 22 years, I've got 4 kids. My oldest daughter's 16 years old. My youngest daughter is 7, and then I have 2 boys in the middle that are 14 and 10.
Wow.
So, married to my beautiful wife of, she'll be 20 years next year. We're just hit 19 years, this next month. Uh, and so that's my everything today, of course, right? Trying to do my very best to provide them with a quality of life, also with a wherewithal to know that it doesn't come from nothing, right? Like, I mean, to have a career in our industry is something that isn't for the faint of heart, right? You
Yeah.
see plenty of people. I mean, I don't know statistically what the average time of someone with a real estate or a mortgage license is. I'd love to see that statistic. Maybe we can look it up and post it, um, but it's definitely not 22 years, right?
Yeah.
So to be able to make a career hasn't come without a lot of sacrifice, a lot of blood, sweat, tears. I mean, with a lot of hard work, right? And so the first couple years were easy. It was the old days of if you could fog a mirror, you could get a loan. So it was kind of fish in a barrel. You get a loan, you get a loan, you get a loan. You want 2 loans, great, right? And today, obviously, it's nowhere near that. You have to be a true professional in our industry today to thrive, and you have to work your tail off, right? Um, but helping my kids understand that it's not a free ride, right? Nothing's given to you in life, and just I do my level best to spend every second with them that I can. Um, you know, I tell people all the time that work is the security, national mortgage. It is not the most important thing in my life. I show up, I
Yeah.
put my time in, and I work hard. Um, but I do loans so that I can go home and that I can be there with my kids, right? I
Yeah.
I coach my sons in baseball and football. My daughter plays softball at a pretty high level, and so I've chased her all around the country watching her play softball. But I love being around my kids. Enjoy a lot of the same passions and activities that I like. I'm very blessed and lucky that way. I know that's not always the case, but they like to do a lot of the same things that I like, and so I've just really just tried to spend that quality time with them. Of course, I love to hunt and I love to fish and I love to camp and all the things that I don't get to do nearly enough because I'm usually chasing my kids around
Yeah.
ballparks. Um, but there's nothing that I would rather do than spend that time with them.
For sure. That's amazing, and it's great that you get an opportunity to coach them and spend time with them like you do. So, how do you balance your professional life with that personal life of trying to maximize the time that you get with your family?
That's a great question, and I think anyone who's done it for a while in our industry will understand that there are some awesome flexibilities that are afforded to us in in our industry. We get to kind of set our own timelines in a lot of ways, but it doesn't come without a lot of hard work. So I think to answer that is a lot of early mornings, a lot of late nights, and my family typically understands that, even when we're on vacation, there's times where dad's still married to the phone a little bit, and
Yeah.
it is something that it is hard to unplug, no doubt. You have to do it every once in a while and just say, hey, I'm going off grid for a week. Nobody bug me. I need that time to kind of to center myself. But I think the answer is taking advantage of making time to take advantage of the moments, right? So
Yeah.
if it's where the kids, I'll use my daughter's high school softball, for example. It's hard because her games are at 3:30, 3 days a week when it's during softball season. So I can't always make it to every one of them, but I do my best to try to do that. But that might mean that I might need to come in at 6:30 one morning to knock out a handful of things, and knowing that as soon as I get home, I'm going to spend a couple hours online knocking some stuff out. And then just having honest conversations with the people that we work with our clients, with the people that report up to us, the people we report to, is saying, hey, look, I'm here for you. I'll do everything that I can to make sure that I'm doing my job, but there may be a 2 hour period where you're not going to get a hold of me today, and you've got to be okay with that, or we're not the right fit for each other, right?
Yeah.
So I think that just setting proper expectations, and then just trying to, especially with the kids being young, anybody, and I'm not to this point, thankfully, don't want to be there quite yet, with the grandbabies and stuff, but anybody who's raised kids will tell you how fast it goes in the blink of an eye. How I have a 16-year-old blows my mind. She's driving and it's scary as this all get out, but I mean, it goes by really fast. So I will never apologize for taking the time to do the things I need to do with them, to be there for them. But I'll work my tail off to make sure that we are able to take the time off that we need.
So essentially, you need time allocation, good communication with your team, and set expectations for everyone on things to
Absolutely.
get to that nice balance.
Yeah.
All right. So, what is a fun fact about you that listeners might not know?
A fun fact about me that listeners might not know is I'll my kids are a little embarrassed by this story. I'm proud of it, but I was when I played football, baseball, basketball my whole life growing up. I just was that's all I ever wanted to do was play sports. When I went to school in Hawaii, they had a men's water polo team and a collegiate basketball team, and I don't swim well, and I'm not near tall enough to have played collegiate basketball, and so, or skilled, I should say. But but they did have I one of my very best friends to this day comes up to me one day and he says, "Hey, have you ever thought about doing cheerleading?" And I said, "Yeah, no." And he's like, "No, really? Have you ever considered doing that?" And I said, "No, that's not a thing where I come from." So I said, "You guys don't do that." And he's like, "Well, listen." He's like, "If you change your mind, I'll be glad to have you come out. We have a co-ed cheerleading squad, and I'll buy you a free pair of shoes." And I'm like, "Yeah, that I'm good, thanks." He's like, "And you get to hang out with like the cutest girls in school, like pretty much all day." And I was like, that perked the ears up a little bit. I'm like, "Hey, wait, tell me more about this?" And so I said, "Okay, I'll come one time, but you have to swear you're not going to tell anybody, whatever." So of course I went to their practice one day, and I was kind of hooked. From a standpoint of like, this can't really be as hard as it looks, right?
Yeah.
But it absolutely was and is, and some of the things that they do today are just insanely talented. But
Yeah.
but I went on to I learned there in Hawaii kind of a little bit about it. I went on to be a cheerleader for uh, BYU, and then I spent the 2 years at the University of Utah, and that was, to date myself a little bit, that was 2004, 2005. So it was like the Alex Smith Fiesta Bowl, BCS Buster, and the Sweet 16 with Andrew Bogut. That was the year that the University of Utah had the first pick of the NFL and the NBA draft.
It's a
So it was
great
like,
time to be
oh
there.
my gosh. And for me, that was part of the motivation is I got to sit front row
Yeah.
on all of that, right? And got to be front and center, got to travel. So yeah, so I mean that's probably the secret. I was a cheerleader. I went on to do the Utah Jazz stunt team for a couple of years. That one wasn't nearly as fun because you had to be like so perfect, and then they just shuffled you back into the corner, and you didn't get to watch the games or anything. Um, but I tell my kids to this day, he's a scholarship Division I athlete and paid professional athlete with the Utah Jazz, whopping $32 a night.
I
So
love that. That's amazing because I would have never guessed that unless you told us. So we gotta get some pictures of
yeah,
you from back in the day.
yeah, we can find some.
That's amazing, man. All right, let's get into our main topics. First, we're gonna start off with customer service. What are some key strategies you use to provide exceptional customer service?
You know, there, there is no secret sauce to amazing customer service, in my opinion. But I'll just share with you a couple of the things that we do. Right? It is you have to communicate. You have to communicate, over communicate. You got to pick up your phone, right?
Yeah.
And to be honest, most loan officers can make a career out of just being available,
Yeah.
right? Whether that's being available over the weekend or making sure that you pick up that phone, call people back in a timely manner if you happen to miss them, right? Um,
Some
because
people say the best ability is availability.
100%, you'd be shocked at how many phone calls we get that they try to start a loan with someone else, right? And they're like, yeah, I don't know. I haven't been able to get a hold of that guy in a week, right? There's no out
Jeez.
of office voicemail, no whatever. And so I think, yeah, to your point, Bo, availability is gigantic, right? So being available, communicating the important things and the hard things, either verbally or in person, not copping out with a text or an email to say, oh, hey, I know I told you rate was going to be this, but it's actually this. Okay, bye. That
Yeah.
you can't do that. You have to have the hard communications, um, or the important communications. You have to have those either in person or over the phone. It's not a as much as in this day and age everybody wants to text and shoot a quick email. That's fine. You can recap, but you need to have some face-to-face, belly-to-belly, some over-the-phone communication with the hard things. One and I will say part of the over-communication process is one of the things that my team implemented years ago is we do what we call a statusgram every Tuesday. And so every Tuesday we communicate to in any given transaction that we have. And we're not always perfect with this, but we try hard to be. We communicate with the buyer's agent, the seller's agent, the title company, any loan coordinators or anything like that that are involved with the transaction. We have a little statusgram form that we fill out every week, and we kind of give them a timeline of appraisals ordered, appraisals back, initial conditional approval, and then we'll comment we should expect or we're waiting on this from the borrower, expected to have it this week, and we'll resubmit for final approval. So every week they're kind of getting a milestone of that where that loan is in the process. And it comes as an attachment, so it's not an automated email that's sent from our systems are great, but sometimes just that personal, like they can tell when it's automated, shot out of one of our CRMs or whatever, versus like, look, I'm just sending you an email with that. So
Yeah.
exceptional customer service to me is over communicating and being consistent with that communication, right? And then always being available, right? And then the follow-up plans is part of it too. But just by being available and communicating throughout the process, it's during that process that you're going to turn someone into a super fan, right? After the deal is done, there's not a whole lot that you can do to change their perspective of how the deal went.
Yeah, for
So
sure.
that's my thoughts on that.
I think that is an amazing strategy, honestly, because coming from someone who's been on the consumer end, communication is huge, and you have questions, and you want your LO to be available to you and to answer those questions. So I totally agree with you there.
Well, and one other last tidbit I'll add is that the efficiency, like if you're going to be a long-term successful loan officer, you have to you have to be a master of your craft. You have to know the ins and outs of the guidelines, or where to find it, how to structure a deal. And you can't be somebody who's going to constantly be pushing deadlines. That'll never work with your referral partners. You'll burn out every processor, every underwriter, every manager that you ever work with if you're constantly chasing your tail. So I think part of that strategy of amazing customer service is being incredibly thorough and honest with your client on the front side and saying, hey, I'm not going to send you out into the great big world to get to put a home under contract unless we absolutely know that we can get you a loan. And to know that, I've got to have this, and that up front. And we're not even going to talk until we have that information, right? So not putting the cart before the horse, and making sure that we're just really open with our communication with them and what we have to have, and then having your back end efficiencies dialed in such that you're not going to be operating behind a timeline, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I love that, man. Okay, so can you share a memorable experience where you made a single deal turn into a long-time relationship?
Yeah, for sure. So I was actually just talking about this earlier today of a single deal that turned into just probably over 100 loans.
Wow.
And more importantly than that, or more important than that, is it's turned into some lifelong like friendships and relationships. And so I did have it was probably about, gosh, 18 to 20 years ago. I'd been in the industry for a couple years doing loans for my buddies, and kind of got to that point where I'm like, okay, now I want to start operating outside of just my friend group, right? Who can you guys introduce me to that you work with? One of these agents that I was introduced to, he was working with a well-known, I mean, still to this day, someone who's a very well-known industry expert, a loan officer still in our area. But this guy was working with this particular guy, but that guy couldn't necessarily see his way around this particular deal, or didn't have time to look at it, review it, whatever the case might be. Anyways, it got put in front of me, and it was just hey, I'm sure you can't do anything about this, but Brian, my friend, said that you're pretty good. Like, is there anything that you think you can do for this client? And it turns out that we took the deal in and kind of just, it took a little bit different angle on it. We're able to put it together and make it work for this client. I'll call him Kevin. And we got a deal done for Kevin. And he was so grateful that we were able to get it done, because it really did change. I mean, it was a life changer for them. It was a house that they had to have. They were at that point with their family, and it turns out that Kevin, over the course of his career, has owned many businesses. Since he owned a business, a little restaurant when I first met him, expanded that into several other restaurants, sold that, operated other businesses. But for his family, and for his employees, I bet I've done 100+ loans for branches that branched from that single transaction. And to this day, that agent is one of my closest friends. And the title company, that he used, I've done several deals for the family of the title company. And I mean, it was a tree, it was a seed that was planted, and the branches went in 20 different directions and have resulted in well over 100 transactions with that, just from that one single transaction. But it was taking the time to dig in, try to find a solution for that person, and then just win them over with our communication and making sure that, I mean, to this day, you better believe anytime this guy calls, even though he's a friend, anytime he calls, I'm picking that phone up, because it is not about what's in it for me. It's about, if he's calling me, he needs some help,
Yeah.
or has somebody that needs some help. What can I do to help?
That's really incredible. What would be like the nugget that you would pull from that as a piece of advice to someone else?
Don't shy away from the hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, embrace, kind of the David Goggins, the embrace the suck. Like, it's especially today where we're at with mortgage applications being at a over the last couple of years being at a I don't know, we'll call it a 10-year low, right? With us having to scrimp and scrap and fight for every single deal that we have, embrace the hard. Don't be afraid to to dig in, learn new loan products, uh, do new loan products that you thought, well, yeah, I've never messed with, whether it's a renovation loan or commercial loan or whatever it is. Maybe that's not your expertise, but there's resources at your fingertips today better than ever before. With, I look at us here at Security National, we've got a very robust credit like policy inside track where we've got all of our program guidelines and documentation. The AI tools that we have today are insane, right? Like you can figure out how to do hard things. So embrace the suck, do hard things, because you never know when that one deal that somebody else told them no is going to turn into the seed, is going to be the seed that turns into just this massive tree.
Yeah, that's amazing, man. So, what advice do you have for self-employed individuals that are looking to secure a mortgage?
Self-employed individuals that are looking to secure a mortgage, what advice do I have for them? I would say get with your mortgage. My tag is mortgage planner, right? That's what I feel like I am. We're more than a mortgage. We're more than just a mortgage broker, a mortgage banker, whatever, or a mortgage loan officer. We're planners. We're here to help you plan. And so for our self-employed borrowers who are wanting to get a mortgage, it might not be a today project. It might not mean that you can get something today. It might be a 2-year plan or a 1-year plan. But the advice I would offer is the quicker that you can get with us, the better, so that we can kind of formulate a plan. Because with self-employed folks, you're always look, we're not CPAs, we're not financial planners, we're not licensed to do any of that, but we have a pretty good expertise and a lot of experience looking at self-employed tax returns, right? And we understand that there's a balance between what you want to write off and what you want to show the IRS that you made, what you want to show the bank that you made, right? There's a balance there, right? It's not always super black and white. So we would just want to help or be there as a helpmate for your CPAs, right? To dig in, kind of give you an idea of, hey, this is, if you want to qualify for X, then we need to show Y. And we're not telling you to falsify that you show Y, but you need to figure out a way to where, whether that's less expense, more income, whatever, this is where we need to be. Because it's not always black and white for self-employed folks, right?
Yeah.
It's not. They have the ability to show income in different ways, right? Maybe it's somebody's going to go buy a vehicle and depreciate it over like special depreciation for a year to show their income way down. That might be okay, but they might not know that that's okay, so they might not do it, right? And so it costs them more in taxes. So I would say planning is paramount. And then second is another reason why you want to get with us sooner than later is there are several different non-QM, non-qualified mortgage options, right? So like non-conforming, unconventional, whatever you want to call it. There's several options there. So bank statement loans, DSCR loans that basically mean that the property is covering itself, right? There's several different kind of loan options. So the sooner that a self-employed person can get with us, the quicker we can evaluate it and formulate a plan for them. But there are more options today than there have been since 2000, since the early 2000s when it was the fog of mirror, get a loan. There are several different loan options that are just very unique to our market today. So self-employed folks have more options today than they've had in years, but it's just about getting with us so we can put them in the right plan.
Yeah, so get in touch with a professional in your area, most likely, and bring your financials.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And would you recommend people to even get second opinions from loan officer to loan officer?
Yeah, I mean, if they've been told no, absolutely, because there are just a lot of yeses now. There are a lot of ways to figure out how to get something done. So not a bad idea to get a second opinion if you've been told something that you don't like, or you've been told no. Absolutely come to one of our loan officers and get a second opinion on that.
You might find someone that's going to embrace the suck
That's it.
and find your yes.
That's it.
All right, so time for some fun with our rapid fire
All
questions.
right. Looking forward to it.
All right, what is your favorite mortgage myth that you love to debunk?
Favorite mortgage myth that I love to debunk? Probably related to reverse mortgages, or HECMs they're now called, these home equity conversion mortgages. People think that you basically lose all access to your house forever and always if you do a reverse mortgage. That HECM product is like one of the best products in the market, especially for like our baby boomers or folks that are of retirement age. It's a fantastic option for a lot of people, but a lot of people, just because of some things that happened years ago, they think, well, as soon as I do a reverse mortgage, there's nothing left for my kids. It's, the property's gone forever, right? And that's just simply not the case. So there's a lot of education around that.
That one's a fun one to say, the heck 'em.
Yeah, the heck 'em, just for the heck 'em of it.
All right. If you could give only one piece of advice to first-time home buyers, what would it be?
Oh,
There's a lot, isn't there?
I know, one
Yeah.
piece of advice for first-time home buyers. It'd probably be the same. One piece of advice: pay your bills.
Yeah.
Keep your credit respectable, right? If you've had some bumps in the road, come talk to us. We'll help you figure it out. But the better that your credit is, the more consistent your job is, like the more options that you're going to have. But again, I'll kind of also put the caveat, just like the self-employed people, come talk to us, because it's not a one-size-fits-all approach.
Yeah, that's true. All right. What is your go-to resource for staying updated on mortgage industry trends?
Ooh, mortgage industry trends. That's a hard one to say. Number one resource for our mortgage industry trends is probably our subscription to MBS Highway. I watch they do a video every morning with everything that's going on in the market. Mortgage News Daily has some great resources as well. And understanding that, look, nobody can predict this market. That all of them have proven, all of us in the industry have proven that we can't get it right for 3 years now, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, this market is incredibly volatile. But as far as economic calendars, things that are coming out, MBS Highway is super robust, and I love their production daily.
Yeah, I had a feeling you'd probably just go with them because they have just really good content
Great
overall.
content.
All right. Coffee or tea, which fuels your workday better? Or maybe you're more of a soda guy.
If you ever see me walking in the morning, it's Mountain Dew Zero, and if it's a really a rough morning, then you'll see me stop at the vending machine on the first floor and pull out I like a Bucked Up or a Reign.
Yeah.
So that's where I get my caffeine. Although lately, out of nowhere, I've been a sweet tea lemonade kind of guy. Like, my Southern roots have been coming out, but that's more of an afternoon guilty pleasure.
Yeah.
I'm a energy drink. I know it's terrible, but yeah.
I am too.
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to beat.
It's hard to beat. You get that quick boost.
It's either going to be that or just like a lot of espresso.
Yeah.
So
Love it.
pick your poison.
Yeah.
All right. What's one hobby that you wish you had more time for?
One hobby that I wish I had more time for is, I'll say boating. I love to be on the lake. I love water, whether it's, Lake Powell or Flaming Gorge or some of our big reservoirs around here. I think my poor little boat got used 2 times last year for 2 half days to a local reservoir. So I wish I had more time to be out on the water, to camp and be out on the water. But there'll be a season in my life for that. But chasing my kids around is taking priority right now.
That's a really good one. I mean, who doesn't love boating, and who
Yeah.
wouldn't want to go boating more?
Yeah,
Probably only people that haven't been boating
that's it. People that don't like the heat, I guess.
or
I don't
motion
know.
sickness
Yeah.
people too.
Yeah.
So feel bad for them. I'm sorry, guys. What is your best piece of advice that you've ever received in your career?
Oh boy. The best piece of advice I've ever received in my career, I probably have to take it back to the very beginning, and it just was that nudge to do something hard, right? To embrace the suck and to take a leap of faith to get in the industry, right? That was a that was a big one for me because I it took some prodding by my buddies to say, what are you doing? You know? And full disclosure, my track was I kind of in the beginning I was like, I think I'll just I want to be a doctor, and then it's like, man, that sounds like a lot of school. Maybe I'll be a dentist, and I'm like, wait a second, that's the same amount of school. And then I think by year two in doing loans, I had I was very fortunate to make, as much as some of my dentist friends had made, and I didn't have 4 years of student loans and debt and whatnot. And so I thought, well, that's we might be onto something here. So I think the best piece of advice was just do it. Just get in there. One other piece is there's I think it might be Mel Robbins. I can't remember who the author is, but it's swallow the frog, right? It's do the, like, whatever the hard thing is, just do it and do it first. And then the rest of the day just gets easier, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if you've ever had those days, Beau, where you're like, I know I got this one or two things to do today, and it's going to be like this part, it is going to suck. And so I just kind of keep kicking that can down the road to the end of the day. Like, I really try hard not to do that. Not that there's days that I'm perfect, but I try hard to get the hard things done first, because then the rest of the day just seems to flow better.
Yeah. I mean, that's great advice, because it's like you take that big jump and then you just sail down just with that first action. All right. So if you weren't in the mortgage industry, what other profession do you think you'd pursue? I mean, you listed some things, but what do you think?
Yeah, if I that was my backup plan, as I was I carried a decent enough GPA in college. And again, full disclosure, I dropped out. I was going to take a semester off to try the mortgage game, and that semester turned into about 8-9 years. And I finally did go back and finish, and appropriately, I have a degree in university studies, like a bachelor's of arts in university, which is kind of cute because I did study several universities. So, but that was always my plan B, is that if I didn't do this, I was going to go back to school and probably go that dental route, something in the medical or dental field. But super glad that I didn't have to do that, because I think I'd be terrible at that. So.
Well, that's awesome. Well, we're glad that you didn't do that as well. We're happy to have you here. All right, and that brings us to the end. Thank you so much, Dave. We really appreciate you joining and sharing your insights. To our listeners, if you enjoyed this, please subscribe. You can watch us here on YouTube. You can listen to us on any of the major platforms. Mind your mortgage and have a wonderful day.